My name is Lisa Lefferts. Number 1. I've put much of my money into buying my property and building my green home. It lies in the blast zone of the proposed Atlantic Coast Pipeline, and the pipeline is between me and the only road out of my development. It also runs through the forested common land above me. I consulted a lawyer who said that since the pipeline doesn't actually cross my property, there's not much I can do. Many here are in the same boat. Shouldn't we have a right to personal safety and security, or at least have this threat to our safety and security addressed? Shouldn't we be compensated for the loss of value of our property? Number 2, where I live in Horizons Village in Nelson County is beautiful. We're an eco-community with protective environmental covenants that were established to run with the land in perpetuity. The covenants state that their purpose includes, among other things, to encourage a sense of community environmental values. Dominion would violate those covenants and environmental values and shatter our identity as an eco-community. Shouldn't we have a right to be an eco-community and express and maintain our environmental values? Number 3, at Horizons Village, we share 100 acres of common land, including a 65-acre tract of undisturbed, some say old-growth forest. It's on a very steep slope and runs directly behind my property. Our covenants prohibit cutting trees on this forested land. Dominion would cut hundreds of trees on that old-growth forest on a steep slope, 125-foot wide swath of them. 125 feet is more than 10 standard-width highway lanes wide. Shouldn't we have a right to enforce our covenants and not have them violated by a private corporation? Number 4, DEQ states as its mission, DEQ protects and enhances Virginia's environment and promotes the health and well-being of the citizens of the Commonwealth. A group of 13 expert scientists and engineers found that DEQ's reasonable assurance that water quality standards will be met by the ACP, quote, cannot be supported by the evidence, and that such a finding would be, quote, professionally incompetent and would fail to meet minimum standards of scientific proof, end quote. Shouldn't we have a right to a competent authority to protect our water and our health? Number 5, of the over 2,300 pages of the draft environmental impact statement on the ACP, only 1 page was devoted to analyzing the no-action alternative. There was no analysis of other ways that our energy needs might be met or on the effects of the proposed pipeline on climate change. There are 2 areas in Horizons Village that have been designated as official conservation sites of Virginia by the Virginia DCR, which notified FERC about them and recommended the pipeline avoid those areas. The DCR gave one of the areas a biodiversity significance ranking of B3, which represents a site of, quote, high significance. FERC approved the pipeline, cutting right through this area of high biodiversity significance. The recent FERC appointees made their decision very soon after taking office. Do you think that they read the thousands of pages of comments and analyses? Shouldn't we have a right to a thoughtful and competent review of the pipeline that meets legal requirements and takes into account the recommendations of environmental experts? Number 6, the politicians have accepted money from Dominion, the entity that threatens me and my community. The regulatory agencies are captured, or at least pressured, and at any rate not functioning as intended. Shouldn't we have a right to have a competent, unbiased, independent authority to evaluate this pipeline? Number 7, I view the land and the waters here as sacred. The area is bursting with springs and with life. I can see bear, bobcat, and turkey from my window. I've even seen a fisher, the largest member of the mink family, extremely rare in these parts. The pipeline would violate what I hold as sacred. Shouldn't I have a right to my home as a sanctuary and not to have what I hold as sacred violated, especially since it's on my own property and the common land property of my development? Thank you for your consideration.